Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
It was 75 years ago that sports car lovers first took to the streets of this sleepy little lakeside village in upstate New York and held a Grand Prix to determine which drivers and which cars reigned supreme. With a layout of over 6.5 miles and spectators cheering from the sidewalks just inches away, it didn't take long, oddly enough, before there was this need for this thing called safety. Not only for the drivers, but for the spectators as well. And it would lead to the construction of a purpose-built facility in 1956. And in addition to being the very first permanent site of the United States Formula One Grand Prix, tonight's venue has since played host to Can-Am, to Trans Am, to IndyCar, to IMSA, and of course to NASCAR. And so once again, we descend upon Watkins Glen International for week number 7 of the Ray Esports Racing League's winter season, brought to you by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, Spec Racer Sports, Common Gear, and Grass Paddock Motorsports here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Greg Ginsberg with Tim Cox joining me tonight in the commentary booth, and Jonathan Grabowski in that virtual production trailer. And for those of you that may be joining us for the first time, or maybe forgot the first time you joined us, we've got 9 weeks of action across 4 different classes. We've got Spec Racer Ford, which you see on track right now for their qualifying session, Spec Miata, and new for this season, 2 touring car classes featuring the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars, as well as the brand new Toyota GR86 Cup car on track. And we're going to see them a little bit later today. Each class will have 6 races over the course of the 9-week season. And on tap tonight, as mentioned, going to be the Spec Racer Fords. They're going to be first up, followed by the 2 touring car classes, all competing for their 5th time this season. And as for the Spec Miatas, we're going to see them next week when the Ray Esports Racing League heads to my spiritual home, Summit Point Raceway. And so, good evening, Tim. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fantastic. You didn't miss one, quite large racing series off your intro there. Of course, Formula One, they have visited here, yes, back in the day. Crying shame that they don't do anymore, because this is a fantastic circuit. It's one of my personal favourites, which for a Brit, like in an American circuit, normally they're a bit bland, but this circuit just works on so many levels, whether it's low-powered cars all the way up to high-powered prototypes, of course, the LMDH. It just works on every single level. And she said, the people who've joined us for the first time or seen this series numerous times before, what can we expect? Well, there's going to be close wheel-to-wheel action that is going to be decided literally on the last few corners, up and down the field. That is one thing you can guarantee about this series.
It definitely, and as we've seen here at Watkins Glen previously, many times, an outright drag race coming out of the final corner out of turn 11 there to the start-finish line about halfway down the front straight as we watch Antonio Rice go and complete a flying lap in qualifying here. Let's do this, Tim. We're going to turn things over quickly to Morgan Burkhardt. He's going to give us tonight's track guide, as he's been doing all season long, tonight's track guide of Watkins Glen International.
Hello everyone, I'm Morgan Burkhardt for Delta Sport US and welcome to the 3.5 mile 12 turn Watkins Glen International Race Course as we're coming down the hill into turn 1, which also happens to be the most important corner on the track. Looking to make it a late apex, kind of bend the car in using all of this road on the exit. Got to be careful of the track limits on exit. You can't go over the curb, but you can put the tires right on the exits of the curb. Carrying as much speed up the hill as we can towards the S. It's very, very steep uphill. Makes turn 1 a really important corner. It's really a straight line up until the bus stop. It's minimal steering angle, but it's all uphill all the way. So every single, half a mile an hour that you can get coming out of turn 1 makes a difference coming up to the bus stop, which is a really sendy corner. You got to throw the car in, using the curbs to your advantage, making sure to keep it tight, keeping all the momentum as you can. Arcing through the outer loop. It's a very difficult cambered downhill corner, so it works with you, but because of that, it's really easy to overestimate. Coming down into the boot, looking for our markers, gonna late apex through the laces, using all of the road as you can, carrying as much speed as possible. It's a bit of a theme in this car. And then up the hill into the toe of the boot, cambered uphill. You can brake a lot later than you think you can. Late apex, still uphill on the exit. Very difficult corner to get right because it's such a late apex. Then towing all the way up the hill, just a slight crest and back downhill into the heel of the boot. On the exit of this corner, gray is okay. It does not matter. Track limits just pretty much don't apply, so you can run out all the way over this curb just like that. Doesn't do anything. In fact, I would recommend it coming into the exit of the boot. Difficult corner off camber. There's seams in the pavement. When it's wet, it's very difficult, but off camber makes it even more tricky. Difficult to do late apex, that one. Coming into the final 2 corners. This one's not really a corner, flat out, trying to bend it through. Don't run over that curb. Through the final corner, looking for a late apex. This blue bush really appears coming out of the corner. You don't want to hit that. And back onto the front straight, carrying as much momentum as we circle around for another lap of Watkins Glen International Raceway.
All right, and thank you so much to Morgan Burkhardt for tonight's track guide of Watkins Glen International. And of course, he was giving us that track guide from one of the cars that we're going to see a little later tonight, from the Volkswagen TDI Cup car. But doesn't seem to matter for Morgan here, Tim, because at the moment as he comes out of the final corner, and he let out a little bit. He had a couple bobbles on this lap, but he is our provisional pole sitter here this evening, and he's got about a 15, actually closer to a 2/10 of a second advantage over Beans Forster and the rest of the field right now. So he's hitting it pretty well.
He is indeed, but still plenty of qualifying left though, Greg. 4 minutes left on the clock, so there's at least a couple more laps left in it for our drivers. So still plenty of chance to improve for them. And, well, if Thornburg has anything to go by, I think we're still going to see Burkhardt take that pole, but he's, well, already being run close by Forster. But the spot is Forster is in the pits, so not too sure, Greg, whether he's going to get out in time and get a chance to put another lap in.
Yeah, and he is leaving the pit lane right now, so he should have time to get at least one flying lap in. Here, as it looks like Burkhardt and Overstreet, and let's see, who is that just ahead? That is the 07 machine of Josh Soto. All, I think, maybe doing a little more practice, I think, than qualifying at this point, working on running in close proximity. Hey, Tim, real quick, because as I mentioned, they do have the week off and they're not going to be joining us until next week at Summit Raceway. Just wanted to quickly run down the finishing order from last week at Michelin Race. Oh yeah, as they get together there, Soto and Burkhardt get together. The finishing order in Spec Miata at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and also the current point standings Morgan Burkhardt took the win. His teammate Giancarlo Schooler about 7/10 back, finished second. Beans Forster a distant 15 seconds back from there. And then a great run for Josh Justice. Josh finished fourth with Caleb Patry finishing in fifth. As a lot of those drivers, when they crossed the line, there was a little contact on the very last lap, and some of them actually got black flagged in the last two corners and had penalties applied. But if we take a look at the point standings now in Spec Miata, and this is after 4 rounds, they'll have their 5th round next week. Morgan Burkhardt is your current points leader, but not by much. He's got 91 points, only a single point up on his Team Delta Sport racing companion, Giancarlo Schooler, who's got 90. Then we've got Beans Forster, who was our champion last season. He is 21 points back from Schooler. Deacon Greenfield currently 4th in the championship with Andrew Wozencroft. I almost called him Rosencroft. Andrew Wozencroft sitting 5th in the championship. And quickly, if we then take a look at Spec Racer Fords, they raced last time 2 weeks ago at Barber, where Morgan Burkhardt took the win over Miles Brown, with Nagase Yoshikawa finishing in 3rd, Brad Gould finishing 4th, Megan Overstreet finishing 5th. And in the standings right now, it is Morgan Burkhardt again, your points leader. He's got a 30-point advantage over Overstreet, who has 71. Another 3 points back to Beans Forster, with Andrew Wozencroft and Jim Brewster, your top 5 in the championship. And you can see there's a bit of a spread there from Brewster back to Josh Justice and the rest of the field in Spec Racer Ford. So, you know, we'll see how things play out here tonight. But for the moment, it's Burkhardt and Forster. And I'm looking to see where Overstreet is currently. Macon Overstreet in the 044 machine, who had been working, we saw just a little while ago, with Josh Soto and Morgan Burkhardt, currently sitting 9th.
Unless she pulls out a miraculous final sector here, Greg, it's not a hot one for her at all. No improvement there. No. Needless to say, you know, actually equaling to the timing sheets in my end, so remains 9th for her. And it's into overtime now. This lap of discovery, Greg, of what you can achieve. And, well, I mean, Burkhardt in the pits, he's not going to go any faster whatsoever. It's whether anyone else can pip him at the post and the depths and the overtime in qualifying. That's right. And so we know that Forster had spent a little bit of time on the pit lane. He's back out on what should be his last flying lap. The number 231 machine, as he is now coming out of turn number 9, that very difficult off-camber turn 9, and only 2 more corners here remain. Let's see if he can, he needs to beat a 2:03.59 to get onto the pole, as he's going to come down to the stripe. And Beans Forster is not going to improve upon even his previous best at 2:04.54 the time, and I think he knows that he pulls over to the side of the road, and he is now done. We do still have a few drivers remaining, like Josh Soto here. We'll see if he can put in another time. Soto currently running 6th, fastest here in qualifying. And you know, again, he had a decent, he's had a couple fairly decent results in Spec Racer Ford. I mean, we think of him primarily as an MX-5, as a Spec Miata specialist, but his running behind the wheel of the Spec Racer Fords has gotten considerably better. As he's really starting to expand his skill set, isn't he, and grow into other series, and it's absolutely great to see, and he's some real success, and that momentum that he's building, it's I think next season, Greg, that's going to be the interesting one for me, and seeing how Soto gets on, because I think he could, you know, we could see him regularly challenging right at the sharp end with likes of Forster, Burkhardt, and be right up there. Yeah, it's great to see, and it's great to watch, you know, so many of these young drivers develop and, you know, build on their skill set, improve in their qualifying times and their race pace and their race craft. It's just absolutely spectacular to see. Indeed. So as we were watching, we had Megan Overstreet, and I think we also had Josh Soto coming across the line. We had the 151 car of Ray Blethen actually take a bit of
a bit of the safer barrier. That wall in the exit of turn 11 before he came onto the front straight actually set, even with that bang against the wall, and it looked pretty hardy, turned in his fastest lap of the session at a 2:04.91, which is good for 15th fastest. And in the battle of the Blethen twins, Ray Blethen with the 2:04.91, good for 15th. Stephen Blethen, 2:05.13, good for 16th fastest. So we're going to have I guess it's, if we're going to have an all Blethen row 8, it kind of makes sense since we only have 2 cars on each row, but they'll be lining up side by side, and you know, we'll certainly at the end of this race see where they finish up. Is looks like qualifying now, all that bonus time is now done, and we're going to have the field start to grid up here. Tim, I'll tell you what, why don't you take the front end of the field? I'll get some of the stragglers, and
why not? I'll take the sharp end and you'll mop up the stragglers.
That's what I do.
Yes, there we go. Morgan Berhart on pole. It's getting almost parrot fashion to say that as his dominance continues in qualifying. He's joined by Beans Forster on the front row. Reed Sharnabrook is joined by, well, Mr. Saturday, although his race pace is improving lots. It's Antonio Rice, the Portuguese driver, joins him on the second row. At Yoshikawa, there's Josh Soto alongside him on the third row, with Andrew Benner joined by Andrew Abbott for an all-Andrew fourth row of the grid. Megan Overstreet has Andrew Rosencroft alongside her for row 5 and running out your top 10. Charlie Ficcaro, he's joined alongside Josh Justice on the 6th row of the grid. It's from this sort of point onwards, Greg. I spotted it from qualifying. It's where it starts to get interesting with some really tight times.
Yeah, very, very close. As we take a look here, is we have starting and making up row number 7. It's going to be Brad Gould and Skip Brock Jr. I just saw Skip down at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, racing in Spec Miata this past weekend. As we mentioned, row number 8, the 2 Blethens, the 151 car of Ray is going to start 15th. The 150 car of Steven is going to start 16th. Then starting 17th tonight, Murphy Nichols with Danny Thomas starting 18th. Caleb Pocock is going to start 19th, with Jeff Andrews starting in 20th position. That is your 10th row. Then we've got Mark Sherman and Deacon Greenfield making up the next row, along with Wayne Buttermore and Joaquin Effinger rounding out the field. It doesn't look like Trenton Kramer or Barry Morton have taken to the session. Doesn't look like they are in the session. The 444 car and the 97 car, and it's likely too late for them to start from the pit lane right now. So Tim, as we've got the field now behind the pace car led by Morgan Burkhardt and heading around for their pace lap, let's quickly talk about our two sponsors for tonight's race. We've got, first off, the Common Gear. The Common Gear is your single source for securely digitizing and storing automotive maintenance records. From photos of maintenance or restoration work to scans of receipts, users can easily catalog every piece of their car's story. Digitize or scan and back up securely in one location. Documenting your diagnostic and repair processes is as important as the work itself. And with the Common Gear, you can keep track of the steps you take, the parts and experts you use, all of the aspects of your car's history. Don't risk losing value in your investment due to lost or incomplete service records and repair records. For more information, visit Common Gear at www.thecommongear.com or on Instagram at _Common Gear. And Tim, we had a great interview with the owner of the Common Gear, Jeff Lavery, last week. And if you want, you can get more information about all their services, go back and don't do it now, but go back and view our broadcast from last week at Road Atlanta. All right, and so let's now talk about our sponsor for the Jetta TDI Cup cars, and that's Grass Paddock Motorsports, who provides Mini Cooper race car rentals, trackside support, and coaching at tracks all over the eastern half of the country. GPM provides podium-capable rentals for B-Spec, which is the fastest-growing class of racing in the SCCA for 3 years running, and is now the 4th largest class overall. Grass Paddock has a unique approach where their race cars are located near the track you want to race instead of being in a central location, and that way you can avoid large towing fees that are associated with most arrived drive packages here in the U.S. Come join us at Grass Paddock Motorsports, where Grass Paddock is not about our location, but about our attitude. For more information, visit www.grasspaddock.com. And of course, Grass Paddock has that great pair of prizes that they're going to be giving away. They're going to be giving an arrive and drive package to both a racing competition license holder as well as a non-license holder. For the non-license holder, so that they can go to a competition licensing school, and for the competition for the racer, so that they can take place in a B-Spec race at the track of their choice. We're going to be giving away those prizes at not the end of this season, but at the end of the calendar year. And so we've got the pace car now bringing the field through the final corner. It's going to make that hard right-hand turn onto the pit lane, and there you go. And Morgan Burkhardt now has the field. He is to your left, green flag in the air. Beans Forster to your right, leading that outside lane. And Josh Soto jumping out to a very quick start. Looks like he got a great run on Antonio Rice there as they come now down through the 90, down through turn number 1 and set up. And you know, Tim, we had gotten word before this race that a lot of drivers were having issues in the Spec Racer Fords with the curbing at both turn 1 and also at the entrance to the bus stop after the big updates that we saw from iRacing for the new season in 2023. But so far it looks like they all made it through, but we are now, would you call this 3 wide or 4 wide into the bus stop as Josh Soto jumps down the inside. We've got Beans Forster, who was trying to push Morgan Burkhardt ahead. He successfully did that as Morgan is the first driver out of the bus stop, but Beans Forster slots into 3rd position. Then we've got the number 14 of Reed Shannabrook, and then the purple number 98 machine of Nagase Yoshikawa with Antonio Rice, who started in 4th position, dropping back to 6th place. But looks like the majority of the field here all successfully making it through, lining up as they head into the boot for the first time.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic start for a few of our drivers. Jeff Andrews down in 14th. He's already at 6 places, Greg. The pack's still tightly contested everywhere you look. I mean, in qualifying, 10th through 14th were separated by 200ths of a second. Not 10th, hundredths of a second over those 5 places. And they're still pretty much as tightly as you like. You know, nobody willing to give an inch in these early stages of the race. We've had 3 wides aplenty, 2 wides, well, that's almost been looked amateur levels in comparison to the display of racecraft these drivers have been putting out so far in the opening stages. And amazingly, not one victim whatsoever, as we see, Andrews just running a bit wide there, because the commentator clearly keep it creeping in there as big praise on him, and they make a mistake.
And he gets back in line, and you know, just as you were saying that they weren't giving any quarter and they weren't backing down, as we're now 3 wide coming down the front straight. We've got Skip Rock Jr., Megan Overstreet, and then also I believe Andrew Benna in the 71 machine. Ooh, and yeah, Overstreet gets pushed all the way to driver's right. She's going to lose a lot of time there as she had to recover the car, and going to lose some momentum as we now have running up the hill Stephen Blethen, who also has made up a number of positions. He's made up 5, and he's got a great run up the hill here too.
Yes, well, it's all about picking this long drag all the way down to the bus stop. It's about picking which line's going to be faster as we go 3 wide into the bus stop. Hold tight. Oh, so they all squeeze and make their way through, but there's contact and there's a couple of spinners, Greg.
Yeah, we had Antonio Rice not go through the bus stop at all. That was Skip Rock there in that burgundy machine, who got the little hip check and ran wide through the bus stop. He got things back underway. Stephen Blethen now in the 150 machine, falling back into 23rd position. And so you know, for all the ground that he had made up, he's now lost a ton going through the bus stop there, and now falls all the way back to 23rd, a net loss of 7, as Josh Soto now pulls up right alongside our pole sitter Morgan Burkhardt as they come down into the heel of the boot. And whereas we saw Burkhardt open up that about a 6-car advantage on the very first lap, it disappeared almost entirely when they went down into the boot. And as we see here now, 3 cars all jockeying for position as they've opened up about a 2.5-second advantage over the next pack of drivers. Burkhardt with position going into turn 10, that heavily banked turn 10. But as the track switches back to go into the right-hand corner, there you go, Josh Soto. For the moment, he's got the lead.
Wow, it's trading places left, right, and centre, up and down through the field. You see Burkhardt and Forster swapping them around, just like this group here. Rosenkost, Justice, they've been swapping around left, right, and centre as everyone's bumping and a pushing and a squeezing. And wow, what a move up the inside. It was speculative, and that's a big spin there. And that's Raymond Bleffen around.
And there, so Ray Bleffen now, much like his brother, with some challenges just a lap later, and they are now finding themselves both in 22nd and 23rd position after having started off in 15th and 16th. Let's take a look here and what precipitated it as they come down to the 90, turn 1 here at the Glen. And Tim, it just looks like he had the rear end walk away from him. He just got into the throttle. He was down in the groove at the apex. I just think he got into the throttle a little bit early.
Oh, there's a big incident there on the exit of the bus stop, Greg. Overstreet caught up in that one, and I think Andrew Abbott, the other car.
And yeah, and here we go. We can see them just now coming out, and it looks like Overstreet, a lot of damage on the car, and you can see not only visually a lot of damage, she is having lots of troubles controlling it, and I think she's going to actually take the shortcut. Let's take a look and see what happened as they were 2 or 3, then 2 wide. She actually, it looked like Megan may have also caught the wall, driver's right going into the bus stop, but as she had contact with Andrew Abbott indeed, and it gets the tire wall very, very hard. And so Overstreet has now made it to the pit lane, and you know, it's just hit or miss for her, Tim. She's had some great finishes on the podium in Spec Racer Ford, or you know, she has these major incidents with other drivers that put her out.
It's a shame because there's a lot of raw pace within there, but I've spoken to Megan quite a few times, Greg. She's so effervescent and so just, you know, it's like, oh, okay, whatever, it happened, on to the next race. Let's see what I can do there. And no, she'll be back and she'll be fighting and scrapping away in the next race. No questions asked, but I think he just started a bit from where Abbott just got spooked by all the cars on his right-hand side entering into the bus stop, and he then just missed his entry point, his braking point a little, caught the curves, bounced across them on the inside, and that's just what sort of sent him bouncing across the track, banged into the side of Overstreet, which caused her car to, well, unsettle as it already was a lot anyway, being Rosencroft being bumped along there by Charlie Vaccaro on the run down. I mean, look, I mean, Jeff Andrews, he starts moving around left, right, and center.
And contact there. Oh, there's not going to be any room for Andrews to, it was hard to miss there as, oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll go back and take a look, but we knew that there just wasn't going to be much room for Andrews to maneuver as the other car was coming through the bus stop, popped the curb, and was pointing straight at him. As they spread out here, Andrews caught all the way to the inside. And was that the, let's see, it's the car on the driver's off first. There's the contact here, and then this.
Yeah, with Vaccaro. Yeah, it's Charlie Vaccaro there.
Vaccaro.
I mean, it was a big lunge, speculative from Andrews heading up the inside there. I mean, he was in absolute flying form. At, you know, one stage he was up into 10th, making up 10 places. And I think maybe he just got that little bit too overconfident, being late on the brakes, trying to send it up the inside. I mean, sometimes being that narrow inside line can actually work for you, Greg, where you can just pretty much straight line the bus stop, especially with these cars being quite narrow. But when you've got 2 other cars to drivers left, it's not going to work, unlike this lot. Well,
we're seeing these 3 make it work somehow, but but I mean, for Andrews, and he was caught all the way to the outside, and there really wasn't anywhere else for him to go. when the two other drivers got together. You know, so, again, somewhat unfortunate for him, but you know that may have also been, you know, he felt maybe perhaps a little overly confident in his position and you know, in the number of positions that he made up, and perhaps shouldn't have made that move. As we continue to watch this fight between Morgan Burkhardt in the green, white, and blue number 40 machine, between Beans Forster, the 231 car, sandwiched in between, and now Josh Soto moving all the way to driver's left to try and open up the entrance here. And that's how they go in. That's how they're going to come out.
No needs for Greg. They'll all be in a Discord server together, laughing and giggling at one another and having an absolute whale of the time up front, swapping places left, right, and centre. It's great to see, but then equally, as much as it's great fun for them, it's still taken really seriously, and the racecraft that they display to get as close as they do and stay as close as they do, pretty much connected. It's absolutely incredible and fascinating to see. I think some may argue, ooh, there's a bit of contact. Oh no, Benner's around and he's collected by the 80 there of Rosencroft.
And yeah, Rosencroft gets into him, and Rosencroft, I don't think, just had anywhere to go as Benna pointed the nose of his car down towards the apex at the toe of the boot. And I was just going to say that Benna had a very good run so far there with Josh Justice and Skip Rock, but we saw what precipitated is Justice had some issues slowing that car down going into the toe, and Andrew Benna having to check up. And let's see if maybe there was any strange movement there. As Justice got into the back of Skip Rock and then had to get out of the throttle there. And unfortunately for Benna, he's the recipient of the contact, and it does look like coming into the pit lane is Skip Brock Jr., so maybe he did get some damage.
Just a perennial accordion effect there, Greg, coming into play, and you know, you've got the two cars in front of you check up, so you have to check up that bit more, which means the car behind you, if they're not completely aware, sends up in the back of you. If not, they're checking up even more so as, well, ding round, I can't think which lap, we're on lap 6, so this must be round 6. They're sliding to the bus stop, and
Great.
well, I think we've still got another 5 more rounds based on how much time's left on the clock, as showcasing exactly how it should be done, how you can go 2 wide safely and still make it and not lose that much time. For all this scrapping and battling they're doing, they're pretty much not losing hardly any time to Antonio Rice behind them. He's just 2 seconds back. Maybe by a 10.42, Greg, but that is absolutely it. And let's not forget, Antonio Rice in the 914 machine is incredibly quick in the Spec Racer Fords. You know, cover him in another Esports league, the SRF Weekend Warriors, and he's always thereabouts, up the sharp end. And they're some of the best Spec Racer Ford drivers on the iRacing platform that we see come out to support that marvellous series. So, yeah, the fact these young whippersnappers, as we call them in the UK, are getting away from it while still battling, I think really just shows how strong and how bright these stars are. Yeah,
well, without a doubt, that is the case. And and as you mentioned here, really only a couple, in some cases with Burkhardt running a 204.5, you know, only 0.04 of a second separating what Burkhardt is doing to what Rice is doing. Now, of course, Rice, who is sitting 4th right now, had fallen back a number of positions at the start of this race, and so it's making his run back towards the front perhaps a little bit more challenging for him, as we're looking at Brad Gould right now in the number 24 machine, and he has some very obvious damage here, Tim. All right in front of the left front wheel, and it looks like he might have had a little bit of a brush of the wall there as well here in this battle between we got Deacon Greenfield, we've got Andrew Wozencroft as well, and then Brad Gould in that grouping as well, and a little bit further back, just kind of lurking back there, another fast racer in, you know, but I would say an inconsistent racer in his own right, Murphy Nichols, in that number 5 machine, making up a little ground. But let's go back to this battle for the lead.
Oh, what can you say? What can you say that we haven't had done already? about these three. Trading places, left, right, and centre. It's advantage Forster at the moment. Soto, he's second. Well, Burkhardt trying to do it the hard way, right round the outside there. The entry into the boot, but can't quite get it done. Has to back out of it a little bit for now. And still, do not lose any time to Antonio Rice in fourth. They're still swapping places. I mean, one thing that is helping these guys is they are bump drafting everywhere they can. But there you go, prime example being displayed right now between Soto and Forster. So I think that's what's really helping them to keep away from the clutches of the wily old fox that is Antonio Rice in fourth place.
And so, you know, I'm wondering if they are indeed on the radio together, and I'm fairly certain that Burkhardt and Forster are. I don't know about Josh Soto, but I would suspect that as the rear driver looks at the mirror and sees Antonio Rice maybe every once in a while edging a little bit closer, maybe the call comes in, hey, you know, probably would be a bad idea for us to work on the draft for half of this. For half of this 3.5 mile track.
Oh, definitely. You can see it being exhibited once again. Every opportunity that they've got, they're pushing and shoving each other along. So any time lost from battling is then made up for, and sometimes even gained. You know, when they're on every straight, you know, if second isn't pushing first, then third is pushing second, and allowing them to all keep as close as they like. I mean, under attempt covering all three of them as Burkhardt gets the overlap on Soto, and he could even get the lunge here on Forster as well into the bus stop, Greg.
Yeah, and that's with Soto giving Forster the push, and Burkhardt carries enough speed just from the draft to be able to draft by on the outside, and so Soto will drop into third position. But again, you know, not a lot of fighting there. They get the passes done before they go into the bus stop. They don't go into the corners side by side. They go into the corners in line, and it's just not allowing Antonio Rice to make up any real ground there. That last time by, Rice was about 0.2 of a second faster. But as we have only 4 minutes remaining, and Rice is still almost 2 full seconds back. 0.4 at a shot is not going to get you there.
No, it's the gap's in fact growing, Greg. I mean, only one lap ago that gap was 2.1 seconds. Now out to 2.3, straying into the rounds of 2.4. One big mention we've got further down through the field, though, is Deacon Greenfield. He's been just quietly chipping away at things, and he's now at 13 places. Has been helped by, well, a few bumps and bashes and excursions outside of the racetrack for a few of the drivers in front of him, but even so, he's up to 9th, and he's got a chance of making it past Rosencroft, who, of course, we've seen is that damaged front left, so he's going to be a bit vulnerable on the straights, Greg, where he's going to have aero damage. Now, these cars, not necessarily the most, you know, aerodynamic. When you think of, you know, IndyCar, you think of Formula One, you know, cars with lots of downforce, but it will make a difference, only by about 1/10, maybe a lap, or possibly 2. So especially if Nichols and Greenfield get together, they could easily make the jump on Rosencroft, and Rosencroft could be, well, just down into 10th rather than finishing well inside the top 10 and 8. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is Murphy Nichols right back behind Deacon Greenfield, and that run by Murphy Nichols, well, he recovered the card. I mean, by Deacon Greenfield, yes. He's going to now lose a number of positions there.
Well, there we go. I should stop heaping praise on drivers, because whenever I've done it so far, they end up having an incident and losing a load of places. So, yeah, I think I'll keep quiet about that one.
And it looked to me as though Murphy Nichols, you know, we may want to take a look at that again at some point, but I think Murphy Nichols did get out of the throttle, got onto the brakes a little bit earlier than Deacon Greenfield. I don't think there was any contact there to initiate the spin, but, you know, maybe we'll, let's take a look.
I think, Greg, he caught the from the angle I was looking at, I wasn't sure whether he just caught the grass a little bit on the left-hand side where he's trying to open up the corner.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. The left rear wheel was in the grass. The rear end shifted over, and that was all she wrote for Deacon Greenfield, who now finds himself back in 13th position. And as they all come through, our leaders come through the heel of the boot, both Josh Soto and Morgan Burkhardt, as Morgan explained during his track guide. You can use every last bit of pavement that's out there and not get an off track. And but when you do it, you're certainly running much more pavement, and you're usually not going to make up any ground here as they come into the final corner for their 9th time. They're going to be starting lap number 10 here momentarily, and Antonio Rice, he's getting a little bit closer now as the white flag is in the air. It's the last lap for our Spec Racer Fords here at Watkins Glen International, and certainly goes quickly. Josh Soto is your leader, with Beans Forster running in second. Morgan Burkhardt, your pole sitter, currently sitting in third, and off a little bit in the distance there. Oh, contact with the wall for Beans Forster, comes back and taps Morgan Burkhardt. And I was just going to say, Tim, that if we do start to see these drivers fan out and go side by side through some of these corners, Antonio Rice, he will be into this battle here as they come through, and more contact in the bus stop, this time between Soto and Morgan Burkhardt. Burkhardt's going to come out in the lead. Soto, who drops back into third now, has got to fend off the 914 machine of Rice as they come now down into the chute in through turn number 6. And we'll see him setting up for the boot for the last time. But, well, we didn't think that Rice would get here, Tim, but there he is.
He's right into the mix, Greg, and Soto's got to pray that Rice will play ball, just allow them to catch up to go for a lunge into the last few corners, and that these two, Burkhardt and Forster, really scrap it out and have side-by-side action for the rest of the lap. That's the only chance Soto's got of catching him and trying to slip a pass. As well, it's now Virtue Burkhardt, or is it, Greg, or is it?
Well, a little more contact there, but Burkhardt's going to be able to open up that corner quite a bit. Will not only be able to carry the momentum, but he's got the inside line going into turn 9. And for the moment, Morgan Burkhardt is your leader with only 2 corners remaining. And, you know, Tim, we cannot underestimate the amount and the effect of the draft of the slipstream coming out of the final corner, out of turn 11, onto the front straight. And I think Beans Forster in a very good position right now. Oh, contact with the wall by Josh Soto.
What's Rice going to get a run on him?
And coming to the line, it's Morgan Burkhardt with a win, 41 thousandths of a second over Beans Forster as Burkhardt came to the inside. Forster tried to hold his line. Josh Soto manages to hold off Antonio Rice. Margin between Rice and Soto, I believe 16 thousandths of a second, somewhere along those lines. Let's take a look as they come into the final corners, all nose to tail.
They were, Greg, and it was pretty much roll the dice. Anything can happen at this stage. Anything will happen. And it was all about just timing that run, and Soto lucky to hold on to third place there. But it's that just, I mean, if it was a little bit further, the finish line was a little bit further down the start-finish straight, Greg, then I think that would have been forced us for the taking. Although
I absolutely, a couple more feet and the 231 machine would have had it. And, you know, and as Antonio Rice was coming out of turn 10, going into turn 11, into the final corner, I don't think he backed out to try to get a run, but he lost a lot of position or positioning behind Josh Soto. And when Soto hit the wall, Rice just wasn't there. He would have had the opportunity, I think, to get past the 07 machine for the last step on the podium, but it wasn't to be. So Antonio Rice finishes just off the podium. Nagisa Yoshikawa is going to finish in 5th. Josh Justice comes home in 6th. Brad Gould finishes in 7th. Both Justice and Gould making up 6 positions here today. Andrew Wozencroft is going to finish 8th. Murphy Nichols started 17th tonight. Finishes in 9th. And Caleb Pocock, who started 19th, rounds out the top 10. So let's do this. Let's see if we've got, we do have both Beans Forster and Morgan Burkhardt waiting in the green room. Tim, why don't we bring in Beans Forster, finishing 2nd tonight in Spec Racer 4.
Well, Beans could not got much closer than that. I mean, coming off that final corner, just, well, the last few corners, you were pretty much side by side for the second half of the final lap. Just take us through it.
Yeah, I still don't even know what really happened. It was just a straight dogfight all the way from start to finish.
It wasn't. Yourself and Morgan seemed to be bump drafting a lot. Was that, I believe you two sit in the same, sort of like Discord server, or at least, comms channels with one another. Was that something you were planning and working together on deliberately, or was it just a bit of, knowing that you needed to do that to ensure that with all the battling that yourself, Burkhardt and Soto were doing, that Antonio Rice didn't catch up with you?
I kind of picked an eeny, meeny, miny, moe on who I wanted to bump draft each lap. And I figured I'd just go back and forth and see if I could play my way to the front, and it worked for a little bit.
Well, I mean, it worked in the sense of, you got second, middle of the free, nearly the win. Just sorry about that one, but well, good luck in the next race.
Thanks,
race,
guys.
Beans. And we'll
Yeah, thanks.
probably speak to you then.
Yeah, awesome, guys. I'll see you next time.
All right, there you go. Beans Forster finishing second tonight in Spec Race Ford. And now let's bring in quickly, before we get on to our next race, Morgan Burkhardt, our winner tonight in the Spec Racer Fords.
Morgan, how much on that run to the line were you sort of like, rocking forward in your chair, just trying to add every little bit of momentum into the car to ensure you kept that victory?
Oh, I was doing the little karting hop that we used to do, just hopping up and down, trying to make the car go as fast as I possibly could. That was so much fun.
I mentioned to Greg during commentary that I'm sure you guys were having an absolute ball out there and laughing away to one another in a Discord server. Was that true?
Yeah, I was in a call with Beans, and it was just kind of there's no like team play. It's just go out and have fun. Gloves are off. Just go play. And I mean, yeah, we were laughing the whole time. It was awesome.
And I mean, considering yourself, Beans and Josh Soto were battling away so much, you weren't losing. I was just saying to Beans that you weren't losing any time to Antonio Rice behind. When you saw him starting to catch in those last lap or so, did you start to get a bit nervous that this was going to turn into a massive four-way fight instead of a three-way fight?
Well, I was monitoring it the whole race, and I shuffled myself back to the third spot. Kind of just let that happen because I knew I didn't want to lead coming into the final lap. I had seen the run that the third place guy gets coming up the hill, and it's just ridiculous. And kind of maybe I can push the two in front so that we can maybe prolong the gap that Antonio is going to catch. I knew he was going to catch us. I just wanted it to be like on the last lap, last corner, where he couldn't really do anything with it. And fortunately, it turned out that way, and we were able to just kind of duke it out between the three of us.
Congratulations on the win, Morgan. We'll speak to you shortly, undoubtedly. Think you can make it 2 from 2 tonight?
I'm hoping.
Well, good luck to you. That's your winner here today, Morgan Burkhardt in the Ford Spec Racers.
All right, thanks so much to Morgan. And I'm sure we'll see him in just a little bit in our second race. And so, Tim, just before we go to break, I'm looking at the point standings in Spec Racer Ford coming into this evening, and with Megan Overstreet's early retirement, she had been running in second place in the championship, 30 points back from Burkhardt, but Beans Forster was only 3 more points back from there. So I think we're probably going to see a new second place runner in the championship, but Morgan Burkhardt going to once again extend his lead on the rest of the field. All right, so let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to get set up for race number 2. Our touring cars, our Jetta TDI Cup cars and Toyota GR86 Cup cars. When we come back here from Watkins Glen International, where you're watching the 2023 winter season of the Ray Esports Racing League. We'll be right back. All right, and welcome back to Watkins Glen International for week number 7 of the Ray Esports Racing League's winter season. I'm Greg Ginsberg along with Tim Cox, and after that very, very exciting battle for the win in Spec Racer Ford between Morgan Burkhardt, Beans Forrester, and Josh Soto, we are now going to move over to our second race of the day, and that is our GR86 and TDI Cup race here. And well, Tim, we're going to have I think a lot of action, if only based on numbers alone, because I am currently seeing somewhere around I think somewhere close to 40 cars between the Toyotas and the VWs here.
Good guess. 39 I've got on the list. So not a bad eyeball there, Greg. And, well, I mean, what can we say? It's going to be really, really interesting because those guys that struggle in the Toyotas, I'm going to see them intermingling with the Jettas, the front end of the Jettas possibly a little bit. Now, the Jettas are going to be incredibly quick in a straight line due to that sedan shape, and we see, you know, they love to slipstream those cars as well. You see a couple of Toyotas splitting VW Jetta there. It's when you get to the corners, especially, that you're going to see, you know, the Toyota is going to be a lot more stronger compared to the, well, diesel that is the Jetta and.
Yeah, the underdamped. Well, they're not underdamped. They've got really soft compression settings on the shocks and way too much rebound on the shocks the Jettas do. So they just kind of bounce everywhere because both of these classes have some very sticky slicks on them. The Jettas had Pirellis on them, and actually I'm fairly certain the GR86 Cup cars have actually a compound which is very similar to what the TDI Cup cars were racing a number of years ago. But you know, it's interesting here. So obviously the combination of the setup of the VWs and what those shocks are capable of and or not capable of, as well as the front wheel drive, they don't it is hard to get into a corner and carry speed out of a corner for the Jettas, but they're very quick in a straight line, whereas the Toyotas very much quicker through the corners, and as you mentioned, they can take advantage of the draft, and whether it's a Toyota ahead of them or whether it's this big, tall, boxy Jetta ahead of them, the Jettas are very quick in a straight line and can definitely motor. We saw that at Mid-Ohio early on in the championship. You know, it's not the worst strategy, especially down the coming out of the S's and going towards the bus stop for these GR86s, to just kind of tuck in behind the VWs and then hopefully be able to pull out and go around them going into the bus stop.
Just thought Caleb Patrick was going to improve on his lap there, Greg, but actually ended up going slower. He had set the best sectors 2, 3, and 4 of anyone on track. And there's 5 sectors here, so it looked like he was on for an absolute cracker, but no, just goes slightly slower by, well, just about 10th and a half roughly, as see Rosencroft there go up into 9th with a 208.5 dead. Ooh. This is going to be an interesting one, and I just sort of alluding as well a bit of what I was saying about that front end of the grid in the Jettas versus the rear end of the grid in the Toyotas. We could see last thing the leaders are going to want is to have a Toyota just getting in the way of their battle and tripping up over them, and it could potentially see a couple of casualties. Or, you know, there could be some drivers winning a lot out of it. It's going to be a real gamble for some of the drivers out there.
Well, we'll see, because although all these drivers are all mixed up together here in qualifying, the plan is to have all of the Toyota 86s start together and then have all the Jettas start together. It actually worked out fairly well at Road America a couple of weeks ago, where there was very little interaction between the two classes. But, you know, with the much shorter layout here at Watkins Glen, I think at some point we'll probably see at least the front runners in the Toyotas get to the back of the Jettas. Now, quickly, as we see that Caleb Patry is our provisional pole sitter right now in the GR86s. He is looking to run the table. He has taken all 4 victories so far this season. And a couple weeks ago, actually last week at Road Atlanta, Patry with almost an 18-second margin back to Miles Brown, who finished in second with Giancarlo Schooler, Deacon Greenfield, Andrew Wozencroft, your top five. And if we take a look at the point standings right now in the GR86 Cup cars, Caleb Patry, he is your points leader going away. Let's see, actually, those are the Jettas. Let's take a look at the GR86s. There you go, 103 points. Giancarlo Schooler with 81, and then Wozencroft and Nichols and Green, and you look at there, starting with Deacon Greenfield at 45 points with Justice only 1 point back, and then it's really tight right behind with Brown and Yoshikawa and Wilson and what have you. So, you know, at the moment, Patry kind of running away with things here in the championship. So now let's take a look at the what we're calling T4, which are the TDI Cup cars. Morgan Burkhardt took the win at Road Atlanta with Jamison Huffman only about 1.3 seconds back. Felix Bourdatti, great run for Felix, started in 10th position, finished on the last step of the podium in third with Beans Forster, Reed Shannabrook, your top five. And there you go with the point standings. 11 points up on Forster is Morgan Burkhardt, and then another 22 points back to Michael Snow in third with Kramer and Spolman, Huffman, etc., running down through the points order. And it's actually, as you might imagine here, somewhat tight. As a matter of fact, right now, for example, sixth position, we've got a tie between Huffman and Effinger, and very, very tight fight here in, you know, again, very evenly matched cars. And especially when you look at the Jettas, you know, Tim, there's not a lot that you can actually change as far as the suspension setup on the Jettas. So, you know, it really all does come down to driver skill for the most part.
Oh, it certainly does indeed. And just seeing Bourdatti there head through the bus stop chicane. So these cars sort of like bumble around a lot, and just alluding to what you were saying earlier, Greg, about the shock absorbers. What you're trying to say is the shocks were shocking.
Yes, it's you know, having attended a number of because I had some good friends that raced in the real life TDI Cup back in 2011, 2012. It was not uncommon to, of course, not hear the cars, but just hear the quick little chirping, chirp, 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 chirp of the tires as the drivers were going through the corners, and the car was literally hopping across the pavement on those Pirelli slicks. All right, so going to the top of the leaderboard, and as time has expired in qualifying here, it looks like Giancarlo Schooler besting Caleb Patry by just a little bit there. With a fast time of 2:05.76, so about a tenth of a second, 900ths of a second over Caleb Patry with Miles Brown. And in the TDI Cup cars, it's Morgan Burkhardt, it's Beans Forster, it's Matt Snow, and Felix Bourdatti there as well. It looks like our championship standings for the moment there in the TDI Cups, as I think most all of our drivers have at least in the Volkswagens have completed their qualifying. We're looking right now at Mark Sherman, who is still out on track, but he has certainly already taken the checkered flag, and most of these drivers are just trying to get in a little bit of extra practice before it's time to grid up for tonight's second race of the night. As there is Megan Overstreet, I'm sure, looking for a little bit of redemption after that Spec Racer Ford race. And I think I mentioned, and you know, probably should have mentioned it for this race instead of the Spec Racer Ford race, Tim, about Grass Paddock Motorsports' great offer with their the two arrive and drive packages that they're giving away. But we'll maybe talk about that a little bit more later. But I think I've got a different sponsor I've got to do a read for tonight, since I'm pretty sure I mixed everything up here on the last pace lap. All right, so let's take a look here. And we are going to have all the Toyotas, all 19 of them, start at the front of the field, and then the Volkswagens will bring up the rear. Your pole sitter in the Toyota GR86 Cup cars is Giancarlo Schooler with a qualifying time of 2:05.755, 900ths of a second, or if you want to be more exact, 91 thousandths of a second up on Caleb Patry. Miles Brown will start third in the 333 car. That's a lot of threes there. Josh Soto, coming off of his podium performance in the Spec Racer Fords, will start 4th. Then we've got Brian McRae starting 5th with Murphy Nichols 6th, John Wilson 7th, Deacon Greenfield 8th. Antonio Rice is going to be running this evening in the Toyotas. He's going to start 9th with Andrew Wozencroft starting in 10th. Then we've got Charles Bailey and Caleb Pocock. They are going to start 11th and 12th. And then we've got Mark Sherman and Josh Justice making up row number 9 with Danny Thomas and Wayne Buttermore, the 74 and the 73 car starting 15th and 16th. Then we've got Nagisa Yoshikawa and Kyle Robertson. They will start 17th and 18th. And then rounding out the Toyotas will be Charlie Vaccaro. He will start 19th.
So into the TDI Cup cars, they've got Morgan Burkhardt starting on pole. By 1 lap from him, 6 tenths clear of Beans Forcer in 2nd place. Matthew Snow, he lies up on the 2nd row alongside Felix Borodati, and then we've got Skip Brock starting in 24th. Into 25th, it's Trenton Kramer with Andrew Benner. Stephen Bleffen's got Michael Snow next to him. Megan Overstreet looking for a bit of redemption after the previous race. Likewise, for the driver that lines up alongside her, it's Raymond Bleffen. Calamari, he's alongside Jacob Schilling with Jeff Andrews. Made a great start in the previous race, but then fell down through the order due to an incident alongside Andrew Abbott. Pokoff is Eric Yeagle next to him for 36th, and then into the last complete race, Joaquin Effinger and Gary Winters with Seth Smallman lining up in the final position of 39th. Now, Greg,
Seth Spallman's going to try and drive to the lead. Pardon me. I'm losing my voice from Seoul, South Korea.
Dear. Well, Greg, I really love grassroots motorsport. And I also love Hartscore sports cars. I just wish there was a publication that just combined those two things together.
Yes, as a matter of fact, you know, it's funny you should mention it. There actually is, and it's Grassroots Motorsports magazine, built for the true sports car enthusiast. Grassroots Motorsports has one mission: to be your personal guide to the sports car world. Whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print or in person, the racers and builders of the car nerds at Grassroots Motorsports will take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in your driveway. They also maintain a collection of staff-built project cars, because hands-on technical articles, they aren't typed behind the desk, they're scribbled down in the garage. And so to not only read but become part of the story, head on over to grassrootsmotorsports.com. And you know, Tim, it would be really neat if there was at least one more company, one more firm that offered arrive and drive packages for Spec Racer
I wish there was.
I do as well, but I'll tell you, we've got one. It's Spec Racer Sports, whose mission is to maintain and fuel your support and support your addiction to road racing. And Spec Racer Sports delivers by providing the parts and services you need when you need them at a fair, competitive price, all with exceptional customer support. Located trackside at Motorsports Ranch Houston, Spec Racer Sports offers exceptionally prepared Spec Racer Fords for rental and for sale, in addition to storage and support. They also offer technical services such as chassis dyno work, driver coaching, and fabrication. Find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services by heading over to www.specracersports.com. There we go. Now we've made it all up, and now I don't think we have any reads for the next 3 weeks.
Okay. Job done. And just in time for him coming around to the penultimate corner as well, Greg. Timed it perfectly. Ever the professional.
It's almost like I've got this little clock in my head. All right.
Yeah. Or like you've done it before.
I have. Maybe that's what that ticking noise is that I hear. All right, so Pace Car has the field for at least another 2 to 3 seconds as it now makes that hard right onto the pit lane, handing things over to the 2 Delta Sport teammates, Caleb Patry, your pole sitter. And wow, it looks like we had Josh Soto already taking a peek to the inside. And we've got a huge wreck on the front straight just as the Jettas were coming through the final corner to set up. And there's Megan Overstreet going around. I think we've got, oh my gosh. Yeah, it looks like a lot of drivers going around, a lot of drivers backwards. Wayne Buttermore with issues And for as clean as the start was, Tim, in the Spec Racer Fords, I think we kind of saw this one coming. But we're going to try and pick up the pieces here as Caleb Patry is your leader in the GR86s. Giancarlo Schooler, Josh Soto side by side as Miles Brown and Murphy Nichols as they go into the bus stop and now get in line. Brian McRae running in 6th, Deacon Greenfield 7th, John Wilson, Andrew Wozencroft. And we'll try and get a handle on the drivers that we lost. It looks like Wayne Buttermore, Charles Vaccaro, Mark Sherman, Danny Thomas, and also Nagase Yoshikawa all caught up in that
Andrew
first lap incident.
There's another one in that as well, Greg. It's definitely some big casualties and some big names. Overstreet, she carried a lot of damage too from hitting the wall, and I think she managed to avoid contact with the spinning cars in front of her, but then clattering the wall on driver's left on the run down the start-finish straight. And well, I can see the front right wheel arch there of Caleb Patry's car carrying a bit of damage too.
Yes.
So he's clearly had a bit of a coming together, probably with Schooler, I would hazard a guess.
I was just going to say that while we were looking at the melee back in the field, I think that there actually was, as I'm scrolling through, I believe there was some early contact by the two drivers on the front row between Patry and Giancarlo Schooler. And we'll see how that affects their pace here towards the this first as we go down towards the bus stop here. And we see now some of the Jettas just coming out onto the front straight. Morgan Burkhardt is your leader. Trenton Kramer in the 444 machine directly behind, now running in second. Trenton having made up believe nine spots, so he was able to sneak by those early incidents. I think was probably just behind, and as everybody kind of started spinning around, the seas parted for him. Trent Kramer running in second, then Matt Snow, Beans Forster back in third position, then Skip Brock and Michael Snow here as we jump back to the other. Yeah,
very changed the lead. Schooler's just snuck past Patry there in the entrance into the bus stop. So they all bounce across the curbs there. One of the big losers out of it was Felix Borodati. Now, he's same position as where he started in the overall pack. However, he lost a lot of time. Well, I've just said someone hit the wall.
Yeah, it looks like we had somebody coming out of the outer loop, and I believe that was Mark Sherman. You are correct. And Sherman now taking his car back to the pits as well. That was the number 18 Toyota GR86. Joaquin Effinger in the 700 machine. Looks like he's gotten some of the repairs that he needed done to his car, and he is now rejoining. And he is in one of the TDI Cup cars. But yeah, here we go as we do have Giancarlo Schooler now falling back into third as Caleb Patry has gotten back to the lead with Miles Brown in that blue and black GR86 running, I was going to say comfortably in second. Doesn't look too comfortable to me as he's got Schooler.
Oh, spinner in the background, the 80. The 80 in the background, Rosencroft. Just lost the rear on the exit out of the corner.
Yeah,
you have to sit there, Andrew.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to take the car back to the pits rather than drive right out in front of the entire TDI Cup pack. But this is yeah, let's take a look and see what happened. Now, of course, that was at turn 9. You know, off camber turn 9, I think it is without a doubt the most challenging course or corner that is here. It is the only one really that is off camber, and just caught a little bit too much throttle there. Now these cars do have traction control, and they've got multiple levels of traction control, but it also I assume that the majority of these drivers are probably running that traction control at the lowest level, and you know, it's still fairly easy to especially if you've gone down a gear in those cars, to try and keep the revs up, to just have that rear end step around on you.
Brown's taking the lead overall now, Greg, and managed to catch that one happening, but getting a great run undoubtedly coming out of the 90 turn one. Oh, does he hold it? Oh, with his sisters to the wall. Oh, no.
Oh, and he gets together with Caleb Patry, and both Brown and Patry. Oh, and going over, that is, oh my gosh.
Schooler.
I think that was
No, shoot, that
Giancarlo
was-
Schooler. Now upside down.
Oh, wow.
And can I tell you that if I had VR goggles on right now, I'd be puking all over the place. Let that let that be known.
I think there's been an accident further up ahead as well, because I've heard more crashing and banging.
Yeah, let's see here. So Schooler off. I'm trying to look at who
Charles
else.
Bowley's had an issue.
Bailey is off as well in the 63 machine. Miles Brown, obviously, who was part of that incident with Patry. And there's
Jetta
Brown
in the background as well. That's just gone to the pits. Eric Yeagle. So whether he's come around the corner and discovered a big, big kudos to Miles Brown for trying to get that one home. But
yeah,
that's just take it straight to the scrapyard, Miles. Don't worry about trying to get that one home.
Bailey, as Miles Brown is trying to get that car through the toe of the boot and get it all the way back around at home, that is going to be rough. But look at this now, as Josh Soto is our new leader. We're not looking at Josh right now, though. We are looking at Deacon Greenfield, and I'm thinking back to the Spec Racer Ford race here, Tim, where we had Deacon Greenfield with Murphy Nichols directly behind him, and that's where we are right now with Caleb Pocock in fourth position, and John Wilson. Oh my gosh.
Let's try and unpick some of this craziness. So this is Miles Brown, who was leading. So he just got a bit loose, and there we go.
Yeah.
Wow, he just got tagged, didn't he? And see him fighting with the car, and then he's onto the grass, and he's got no chance of controlling there, Greg. No chance. And then Schooler just,
and
he has his own issue.
Schooler, and he's just out of the shot, and I'm sure that's where Schooler ended up in the air.
So luckily I've got an ultra wide, Greg, so I can just see that a little bit more, and I just caught it. So he just loses the rear end while these two are having their own issue, and
all right, let's take a look at this
spins it around
from another angle. And so I don't think Patry got into the back of Brown until Brown had already loosened up and gone to the grass. So let's take a look now as Schooler goes to the inside. He comes back around. He's now backwards, and yep, there you go. And well, then you've got the iRacing bouncing.
Well, there we go. It's like a pinball, isn't he? And then, round come the Jettas. Yeah. And then there's a further incident that happens here as they come through. So he's on his roof. We've got Miles Brown sat there on the apex. And his car is in much more complete state at that stage. So he's clearly then had further contact with one of the Jettas.
And just as we cut away, we saw Miles Brown start to move forward, to try and loop that car around, and I think he ended up having more contact with one of the Jettas as he was getting back underway. But here we're back. This is the battle for second currently, as Josh Soto is now 5 seconds ahead of this now almost 6 car battle for second place in the Toyotas, led by Deacon Greenfield. Murphy Nichols second, about 3 car lengths back from there. It's Caleb Pocock with John Wilson and Kyle Robertson, the tail gunner in that group. And the funny thing is, as I'm looking at this now, just to unload here and how much carnage there has been in the Toyota GR86s, Morgan Burkhardt, who leads the TDI Cup race, he's still about 10 seconds back from the Toyotas, but the Jettas, which are running from 8th place to 20th place, so 12 Jettas in a row, and Morgan Burkhardt, the leader of that pack, is up to 8th overall, whereas he had started somewhere around 20th position. And we're watching right now. This is we're watching Trenton Kramer, who is currently following the 231 of Beans Forrester. Trenton's the second car in that line, and then Skip Brock Jr. in the Burgundy number 68 machine, sitting third. Again, a lot of these drivers, they are looking to possibly win one of those arrive and drive packages from Grassroots Motorsports, probably not from Grassroots, from Grass Paddock Motorsports, to be awarded at the end of the calendar year. And myself, Stevie Ray, as well as Frank Schwartz from Grass Paddock Motorsports, are the committee in charge of that. And thankfully, by the end of the year, I will have forgotten this race.
Well, I mean, for anyone who's not, you know, who needs proof of why you should leave a good chunk of time between different classes in multi-class racing, you've just there's nothing. Nichols there just clipping the wall on the exit of the final corner. But yeah, I just reinforces why you should do it. Otherwise, you end up getting caught in a whole world of pain and incidents further up the field as well. The two Bleffens there are having a right old go at one another, and the battle for 14th overall. Well,
yeah. And remember, in the Spec Racer Ford race, they started right next to one another. They started 15th and 16th. One of them had fallen off the course, and then the other fell off a lap later, and then they found themselves both back, I think, at like 21st and 22nd position, again fighting for position with one another. And I know we've got their mother Trish. And I might also add that I think the brothers, and again, they're twins, I think are somewhere close to 40 years old, but I know their mother is online watching, or I saw her in the chat a little bit earlier.
Wow, I mean, we're only just over half race distance, and it's, you know, obviously known colloquially as the Glen. You have the Battle of the Glen normally ensues here. Well, it's like the remnants of a war. No!
Oh!
No, not a
Oh,
no, talking about remnants of a battle zone. That's blue on blue there. You don't take out your teammate, let alone a family member.
Oh yeah, and it looks like Stevens taking the rim shot around the bus stop. I think his night is now done. It might be very, very uncomfortable come Thanksgiving in the Blethen and Pellegrino household. All right, let's take a look and see exactly what happened. As they were about dead even coming into the bus stop, and just a question of maybe not giving enough racing room, and started to come across the nose of the other. And so Raymond now finds himself still in 14th position, and unfortunately Steven finds himself in the pit lane getting repairs.
Shout out to Kyle Patrick, just set the fastest lap of the race. He's well out, 17th overall. Got a ton of Jettas in front of him, but still grinding it away and showcasing that pace and what could have been as well. I say that just shows so he just goes even faster out in front. He's right on board with Caleb Patrick right now, and this is what it looks like now. This is the tricky part because he knows he's got the pace to clear these Jettas, but these guys, they're all battling for position. No blue flags to help. He's in pass, right around the outside he goes. As one of the cars checks out into the pits. That was Raymond Bleffen.
Yeah, the other
one less car for him to pick off.
and our director Jonathan says that that Raymond felt shame, and so he brought the car into the pits.
Ridiculous. I think that was Joe Calamari there, ran ridiculously wide out of turn one, which has made Caleb's job a little bit easier there. One less car to pass, and I think he's actually at the front of that little group now. So
he managed to get around all of them almost, within half a lap. And Joe Camilleri almost ended up in downtown Watkins Glen there, coming out of that out of turn one. All right, as we're watching now, and we've got now the lead car in this group is now Murphy Nichols, the number 5 machine. He is your second place runner in the GR86. Is Deacon Greenfield behind him now, side by side as they've been now for I think 4 corners. Caleb Pocock and Kyle Robertson. Robertson to driver's right, Pocock to driver's left. And now trying to sneak underneath is the 82 of John Wilson, and there just isn't anywhere for Wilson nor Antonio Rice there as well. Rice is the trailing car in that whole group. But these two drivers have been pretty much nose to tail for the last half lap as they both open up the corner going into turn 10, and Wilson's still trying to find a way around. We'll see if he decides to. You never want to try and cut underneath the car necessarily in an evenly paced car going down in the turn 1, because it will completely throw away your pace heading up the hill to the bus stop. But
certainly, especially in these low-powered cars, Greg, because it's all about momentum with these, carrying much speed and through the corner, through the apex, and if you have something, like you say, going side by side that kills that off, climbing up the S's, which doesn't look too bad when you're in the car, but it's actually quite a bit of a climb, and it really hampers your top speed when you come down to the end of the straightaway. We're seeing, well, swap around here. Greenfield now ahead of Nichols.
Yeah, and you can see what the effect of the draft is through the second half of the S's there, as Greenfield got a very good tow from the number 5 machine, and once you come through that final right-hand bend, you're probably carrying a good 3 to 4 miles an hour more than the car ahead of you. As we're now taking a look here, we've got Matt Snow in the 78 machine, followed by Beans Forster. Directly behind them
that's the 80, Andrew Rosencroft.
Rosencroft, yeah, and Rosencroft is a lap down from these Jettas. So you know, I'm sure Andrew would love to be able to unlap himself, but you know, he's in a 4-car fight right now for position, and we'll see if he can kind of sneak underneath them going down into the toe of the boot. It's going to be very late. And no. he's gonna push that car wide.
That's Murphy Nichols off.
And Murphy Nichols. And and Kyle Robertson as well with trouble. That is at the heel of the boot, turn 8, as they're coming back up the hill. And so Murphy Nichols had been your second place driver in the GR86's. Robertson was part of that fight as well. Let's see exactly what happened here.
Up the inside. Did he outbrake himself? No, just caught too much of the curb. Not quite enough room, but this car was halfway alongside.
Yeah.
And
just came down the inside a little bit too deep, got into the back of Murphy Nichols, and so both Nichols and Robertson fall back through the pack in that, and Greenfield, who had taken over second place from Murphy Nichols at the bus stop, now has, well, he's still got a fight on his hands. It looks like Pocock is hanging tough there, but let's go back to this fight
contact.
in the Jettas. Oh my gosh, Beans Forster with the drift through the 90. And what were we saying about how you need to be able to carry momentum up the hill? Oh my gosh.
I mean, he was saved there. The fact these cars are front-wheel drive, the best way to save them is to slam on the accelerator, pulls the front end back around, as he was tapped by the 68 of Skip Brock coming into the corner. Now Brock's got a lot heavy damage. Well, this is a lot. Just brings me back to British touring cars with all the door banging. You know, I'm surprised they've still got their wing mirrors on their cars, Greg, because I mean, there's further contact and sliding and moving around there.
Tim, they're not using them. Oh, and Skip Brock now going almost sending the car around, coming out of the bus stop. Who needs mirrors when you don't use them? There, as Skip Brock Jr. manages to bring the car back underneath them there. And you know, the one thing that the Jetta drivers always want is to be able to get those cars to rotate, so that they're not pushing through corners. And I think that was probably a little bit beyond what Skip Brock Jr. was looking to do with the car, as we're watching right now Josh Soto, who is our leader in the GR86s, and he should be getting the white flag. One more lap to go. The driver right behind him, that is Wayne Buttermore, who is a lap down, but will now be starting his final lap as well. But now Josh Soto, almost a 10-second, actually a little bit more than a 10-second lead over our second place runner Deacon Greenfield, as we go back to this Jetta battle. And we're watching now Caleb Patry as he works his way around the 78 of Snow and the 231 of Beans Forster. And so next Toyota in line would be Kyle Robertson in that heavily damaged machine, a little bit further up the road. Unfortunately for Patry, I think he's about 22 seconds up the road. But he gets the white flag nonetheless, as does our TDI Cup leader Morgan Burkhardt, who is currently sitting 8th overall, with Snow and Forster running second and third. And Burkhardt now has got a very sizable advantage over the rest of the field there. You can see almost 8 seconds over Snow as they are starting their very last lap.
I mean, do we just leave them and keep running out there, and the last car out on the track wins? It's getting that way, isn't it?
That may be exactly how it finishes.
I'm sure it's not going to actually I'm sure it's not going to take too much more longer. It's been a real war of attrition out here today in the second race of the evening. Is getting incredibly loose there with snow. And this is Phoenix Forster's chance now. He needs to capitalise because time running out. He's only got about half a lap left. There are still overtaking opportunities around here, but it's going to be tricky for him, especially with these Jettas. And, well, unless he can get a great run up the hill coming out of this corner now, I think realistically that's going to be his biggest chance gone.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, he still has that ability to draft by on the front straight, but it's not as strong in the Jettas as it was, say, in the Spec Racer Fords as we saw earlier. As coming out of the final corner and taking the win in the GR86 Cup is Josh Soto. Deacon Greenfield now brings that Logitech liveried machine across the line. He's going to finish in second. Caleb Pocock will finish third. There's John Wilson in the 82 machine. He's going to finish in fourth. Murphy Nichols, who had a podium position tied down, he is going to come home now a little bit further back in the field. He is going to finish in sixth. And Morgan Burkhardt is going to come across the line. I was just taking a look at the Jetta just ahead, but Morgan Burkhardt crosses the stripe. He is your winner in the TDI Cup cars. Now, can the 231 machine draft past the snow machine, the snowmobile? No, it cannot. Mike Snow will take second place. Notice I called it the snowmobile. Mike Snow will finish second in the TDI Cup, with Beans Forster finishing in third. Then just off the podium, Skip Rock Jr. will finish in fourth. Trenton Kramer will finish in fifth. Andrew Benna in the 71 machine. We're watching him right now. He's still got a few more corners to go here, and he is looking to bring home a fifth place, probably a sixth place behind Trenton Kramer. As he is, well, actually, I'm sorry, Benna already crossed the stripe. It looks like we've had most of our Jettas already crossed the stripe. So, pardon me, as Benna will finish sixth, Andrew seventh, Jacob Schilling will finish in ninth, and Joe Camilleri, who found his way all the way back from downtown Watkins Glen, Joe Camilleri will round out the top 10. All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Where do we begin to unpick that one, Greg?
You know,
yeah.
I don't want to be involved with the stewarding and having to determine whether or not there are any penalties coming out of this last race, but it was ugly pretty much from the drop of the green flag.
Tim, it was a slugfest. It was an absolute slugfest, and it's definitely going to be a late night for the stewards trying to unpick that one because. Wow.
But as they say, that's above our pay grade. We're just going to bring in the people that we think finished up at the front. So let's do this. Let's bring in Deacon Greenfield. He finishes second tonight in the Toyota GR86s, driving the number 36 machine.
Deacon, wow. I mean, some may argue that thanks to all the symphony of issues and crashes and whatnot in front of you and around you enables you to get second, but you're still going to be there to take it. I mean, yourself and Caleb, just talk about your battle that you two certainly had. It just didn't let up pretty much for the entire race.
Yeah, really, it wasn't a battle. Me and Murphy were trying to work together. It was really good teamwork, trying to swap together to see who could have the best pace, get best draft, to get away from the rest of the field. Josh ran a great race. He was just too quick for us to catch.
And I mean, wow. I mean, from that point, I mean, obviously second, you know, still you could argue probably the best you could have hoped for because of, you know, Soto's pace. But I mean, you were still, you know, locked in and brought into a four-car battle. It could have gone absolutely any way. What do you think contributed to your success here and securing that second place on the podium?
I think consistency is really important for Watkins Glen, and understanding where the limits are on this track and understanding the car. Teamwork as well, working with that draft. It's absolutely insane at this track with those straightaways. And yeah, you know, sometimes you don't have to be the fastest, but if you make the least mistakes and avoid the accidents, you'll get results.
No, most certainly. And well, congratulations, that's second place in the GR86s and overall Deacon Greenfield.
All right, thanks so much, Deacon, for joining us. And I think I'm probably going to see Deacon this weekend at Summit Point Raceway. Let's now bring in our winner in the GR86s, driving the number 07 machine, Josh Soto.
Wow, Josh. You always know when it's been such a controlling race when you're hardly ever seen on a stream, or if it's real life on camera. I mean, what does it take to maintain that concentration, to put in the caliber of laps that you were putting in there and just keep extending that gap? I mean, in the end, just shy of 11 seconds you finished clear of second place in a 20-minute race.
Oh man, yeah, that's a good question. Mainly it's just keep reminding myself to stay focused, because it's very easy to lose focus. So yeah, it's just a constant reminder to stay focused, and it's just try to do the fastest laps I could, and without making mistakes and things like that. Yeah, it's basically just remain focused as much as possible.
And just we're seeing footage of it now. Just talk to us about the start, and what was your sort of thought process, for certainly the first sort of that run to the line and then the first lap following it.
I'm trying to remember it.
Come on, Josh. It was only 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, no. So it was okay. So yeah, basically just try to not get into any contact, not try to try to gain as much places as I could, but I think I ended up making a pass on
Giancarlo Scooter at the start.
Yeah, it was a green car. I ended up making a pass on there, but I made a mistake going up into one of the turns, and he ended up taking the spot back. So I was just falling in line, but I noticed that that they were fighting a lot, and it was fighting a lot in front of me. So I was just keeping cool and trying to avoid mistakes, because it looked like they were going to make a mistake. And they ended up making a mistake, and I was fortunate enough to not get caught up in the crash.
Well, you managed to avoid it, and it carried you all the way to victory. Congratulations, that's your winner overall in the GR86 class, Joshua Soto.
All right, thanks so much, Josh. Now let's move over to our TDI Cup, where I believe, and maybe because Mr. Snow is a little gun shy tonight, we only have one driver from the TDI Cup podium here with us. Going to be second time we speak to him tonight. It's Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 Jetta TDI Cup.
Well, before this race, Morgan, I said, could you make it 2 from 2? And I remember you saying, well, I'm going to give it a good go. You've ended up winning, and an incredibly comfortable, gap as well between yourself and second place, and 8th place overall. Wow, I mean, had you any idea of what was going on? I mean, especially when you came across just talk about coming across the start-finish line to start the race and seeing Toyota scattered left, right, and centre across the track, and how you picked your way through it.
Well, yeah, funny thing about that, actually. I heard, we were in a call. It was like Murphy, Caleb, JC, Nikisa, Andrew, and Beans. We were all in a call together, and I hear Nikisa say, "Oh, I've got a wonderful start," and then 2 seconds later, I see smoke. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just check up a little bit, hope it kind of clears before I get there. Unfortunately, it did, and then just kind of got up to the lead, and then just went to my target time, and then just kind of did that until I think it was going into the laces of the boot. I hear screaming start as I'm going through the bus stop, and then I just see a bunch of smoke in the laces, and I come around the corner, and JC's doing like ballet in the middle of the track. And I ended up passing like 5 or 6 cars that actually happened to do anything. So I got pretty lucky not being in the wrong place at the right time. Yep, that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, but I'd stop and think about that one as well. And I mean, from that point onwards, it allowed you to open up that gap, and I mean, even then, it just must have got a bit tricky for you at times to maintain focus. I mean, we're just seeing a replay right now of Giancarlo spinning on his roof like he's breakdancing across the track, and as you make your way through there. I mean, just to maintain that focus, considering what a crazy it started being, and then it settled down for yourself, or you found yourself in that bubble. I mean, that's the same to Josh Soto. I mean, was it easy enough for you to maintain that focus, knowing that you had to be on edge, seeing what happened in the first half of the race, knowing that you could come across stuff like that again, or was it just autopilot for yourself and just knocking out the laps?
Well, it was at a fortunate time in the race where I had already gotten out of the draft, so I had a little bit of a buffer, so I could be a little bit more cautious coming through like a war zone, basically.
Yes.
So I had slid up a little bit more and made sure that, you know, I kept the car clean and I missed all of the wreckage. And after that, just kind of flipped back to the same grind again. Yeah, it was definitely like a little bit of a gut check moment coming around the corner, not really knowing what I'm going to see. The relative was just going crazy. Everybody was flipping all over the place. So, yeah, it was. I got lucky with it. Like I said, I mean, I had a buffer that I could use, and yeah.
So yeah, used it to great effect. Well, that is your winner in the TDI Cup car, Morgan Burkhart, and finished 8th. Yes, that's right, 8th overall. Well, Greg, I mean, fascinating to hear some of our drivers' insights there of what it was like being involved in, well, one of the craziest races that I've seen. Well, I've had 2 crazy races in the space of a week, and I'm not sure my heart can take any more of that.
I don't know either, and yeah, it was so the shot that Jonathan was showing us as you were talking to Morgan, where he comes out of the outer loop, he's setting up for the chute coming into turn 7, and it looks like he's just on a Sunday drive, you know, no real movement in the hands, and he's just kind of sitting there. And he comes around the corner, and then there's this car bouncing around on its roof right in front of him. Just absolutely classic. All right, so let's go and just try to wipe the memories of this race from our minds and think of shiny, happy things, Tim, as we get ready for next week, next Tuesday night, May 21st, where we're going to see the return of the MX-5 Cup cars. We're going to see the Spec Racer Fords. We are not going to see the Jettas and the GR86s. I think they all need a week off. But we're going to be at beautiful Summit Point Raceway, Summit Point Motorsports Park, for, I guess, what would be round number 6 for the Spec Racer Fords, and round number 5 for the MX-5s. So we are definitely getting down towards the tail end of the season here. Only 2 more rounds of the regular season left at Summit Point, and then Virginia International Raceway before we head on off to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for our runoffs. So I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. I want to thank Tim, of course, for being here as always. Thank you, Tim.
No problem. Pleasure as always.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Jonathan Grabowski sitting back behind the scenes, making sure that, well, you saw Giancarlo Schooler go flying through the air with the greatest of ease. I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next Tuesday night, March 21st at Summit Point Raceway. Have a great week, everybody.